In this video, it's the Redcat Ascent-32, and we have the Injora oil-filled shocks to go on it because non-oil-filled shocks aren't nearly as cool. Leave a lot to be desired when it comes to control of the body. We have the Injora shocks made specifically for this, and we're going to show you how to install them here today in this video. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Troy. This is RoadsideRC. Typically find me bashing or crawling or drifting or racing, plus doing product review videos and how-tos. Let's get started by, I think we're going to have to get the body off and probably the tires and wheels off. This set of Injora shocks come completely pre-assembled, and I even took a shock cap off and confirmed, yes, there is oil in them as well. Very nice and convenient. It also comes with a spare set of springs, and it also comes with a whole host of hardware that I assume is to help us mount these things up, but there's a lot of parts in here, so we're gonna have to look through it and kind of figure it out. No instructions, and so hopefully this video that I have here today will be helpful for you if you want to put these on there. I'll screw it up so that you don't have to. Getting the shocks off the truck is actually really straightforward. There's one screw up here at the top, a nut on it on the back side. I'm going to cheat and use a pair of small needle nose pliers to help hold that nut. On the bottom side, very similar, one long screw. It comes right out. It is going to release your lower link, so just make sure that you don't, it doesn't fall out on you. Now we have the factory shock, both the ball studs and screws in it. What I find interesting here, on the left is the factory spring. Then we have the spring that comes on the Injora shock, and then the spring that comes spare. What's interesting here is the factory spring kind of almost feels like a medium stiffness. The one that comes on the Injora feels really soft, and the spares feel stiffer. But of course, that's just calibrated fingers, and so it's a little bit hard to really know what the real spring rates are. Note that you cannot reuse the factory spring on the Injora shocks because the spring diameter is different and it won't sit on the spring. We have a whole grouping of screws and stuff over here to figure out how we're going to mount these shocks back onto the truck. What I've done to start is I pulled the factory ball stud and screw out of the factory shocks on the bottom because these have plastic caps down here, and it turns out it pops in just beautifully. So when in doubt, I'm going to try to reuse the factory hardware, and this one does, and it allows you to on the bottom very easily. The top is a metal shock cap, and it's not going to let us get away with that. But we do need to replicate this standoff that we have here so that we can clear the sides of the chassis and everything. And I believe these different length ball studs is exactly what we need. We're going to put that rubber O-ring on, and then we're going to slide this whole thing into the shock, and then from this bigger side put a rubber O-ring back on the other end. That way we have a little bit of flex. It's not overly loose up there. Since we know, of course, the bottom one's the right dimension, went ahead and screwed that in there. The standoff that we chose is going to work great. Now what we need is to pick from our crazy long screws over here, one that goes through, and then we'll see if we can't put that nut back on the other side that we had earlier. That bolted on easy enough. We're going to move around to the back. It should be the same thing. One screw at the bottom here that you can just pop off, screw and nut, and it looks like we'll probably have enough of these short ones to go around, so we can use those short ones on all sides. We're able to do the same thing. We're able to use this bottom ball stud. In fact, what I did is I just left it screwed in, pulled the shock off, popped the new shock right on there. Again, over here we have some long standoffs, and we have a bunch of kind of short medium ones. Used one of the short ones, and it looks like it fits quite nice and even gives a little bit extra length with the screw. Both front and rear here are done, and that looks a whole lot better than the other side. I mean, just look at that. I missed the red. I like the red, but this looks so much better and it feels so much nicer. I'm excited. I'm going to go ahead and hop off camera, do this side. I assume it's going to be just the same as over here. No difference. And then I'm very excited to get the tires and wheels, the body back on it, do a bounce test, see how good they are, and then crawl over a couple of my obstacles here. The good news is doing the shock upgrades rather straightforward. You just need your 0.050 inch MIP hex driver, a 4mm hex tool in order to get the nuts off the wheels, and a pair of pliers to help you hold all those small nuts and screws and everything else like that. Alright, it's the moment of truth. Oh, look at that. That's so much better. It's almost too stiff a little bit, isn't it now? But the amount of control, and it doesn't bounce like it did before. Oh, that's so much better. I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't actually expect that I would see much of a difference in how the truck crawled here in my garage on these simple obstacles that I have here, because I was going slow enough, it's controlled enough that we're not really doing a lot of bouncing around and that kind of thing, so I thought maybe it wouldn't really make that big of a difference. But the truth is, coming across these bumps and up across this kind of, I'm going to call it the ravine here on the sides, it actually was noticeably smoother than it would have been otherwise, so I'm really happy with that. These shocks really do make quite a difference in the handling of the truck and overall, and they look nicer too. I really do like it. I mean, it gives the truck a little bit more of a premium feel, there's no doubt. It takes away that toy, kind of that Walmart toy bounce, and that is really, really nice. But the fact that it's also even noticeable just across a simple obstacle like this means, yeah, this is right. Now I will say I like the rear. The rear feels really good to me. Maybe a little bit too stiff. I don't have a softer spring, but maybe what I can do is lean that shock forward in order to make it feel softer. And then on the front, I'd say it's almost the opposite. It feels like it might be too soft. Maybe I need to grab those spare springs that were on it and actually swap those over and try how those go. So, of course, depending on what you have done to your truck and how it's been modified, you're going to have to make that decision for yourself. But the cool thing is we have the springs, we can do more testing, we have more shock mounting options, so we can change them around. That is good, and that is something that I plan to mess with. And maybe I will show you in a future video. If you have this Ascent-32 and you're doing upgrades to it, I hope this video was helpful for you about trying to decide if these shocks are good for you, if you don't need them, if they're an upgrade, and if you do get them, how it is to install them. If you are curious about getting these shocks, I'll have a link to them down in the video description. If you're curious about anything else Ascent related, I'll have a whole Redcat Ascent playlist that'll be popping up over here to your right. And I hope to see you in one of those videos. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.